الله تعالى وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان ودعا بدعوتهم إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا يقربنا إليك يا رب العالمين. اللهم افتح لنا فتوح العارفين ووفقنا توفيق الصالحين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم اجعلنا من الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من أن أضل أو أضل، أزل أو أزل، أظلم أو أظلم، أجهل أو يجهل علي. آمين. Honorable, respected elders, brothers and sisters and youngsters, I greet you all first and foremost with the greeting of Islam by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We thank Allah for this opportunity to gather as a community in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I personally and on behalf of the Masjid and Kerala Association, thank you all for coming out to join, inshallah, to hear this talk, which relatively is very new and perhaps unusual to many of us. When I announced this topic, there were a number of brothers who came up to me speculating different themes under this topic to be covered. And I said, inshallah, this is something, although the topic is something not we are very used to of, hence the content is also going to be in some way surprising, but needed, as some of the scholars have talked about this topic in a recent time. But it is to bring to our knowledge the harm that humans can bring about in the world at large. And you may be aware of things that I will speak about, but the correlation between the self and the society from a spiritual lens is what I want to highlight in light of this topic. I pray that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit you and I equally, and I hope and pray that we, in light of this, seriously retrospect and reflect over the wrong that we have in our life and change accordingly. That's the goal for any topic that we discuss, because at the end of the day, it is not just to transmit the information, rather to bring the transformation in life. That's the purpose of all our talks. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. To begin with, it is a fact that modern human societies are facing some unprecedented challenges in our time. And these challenges, as we hear inshallah al-Aziz in this discussion, some of them are completely new, and others, they may not be new, but they existed in the past at a very micro level, not as big as it is today. And the nature of these challenges, subhanAllah, the issues that humanity at large is grappling with and dealing with, and they have failed in many ways to resolve them despite the advancement, despite the information and ability in many ways to resolve. And so the nature of these issues is such that it is the effect has transcended the human societies. It has gone beyond affecting not only humans, but also other makhluqat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala around us, different creations of Allah, and even the world at large, the globe at large. The question that rises in light of these issues that we will talk about is that who is responsible for those issues are to be discussed. Is it human beings? Is it other creations? Or something else? So as we know, we are not the only one live on this planet. There are countless creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who we share this planet with. So who is responsible for this massive mess out there? This is something to think about. So when we diagnose this very central, crucial, issue and disease, then it will lead us to solve that. Otherwise, human societies, generally they are known very well for their blame game. They blame each other. And this is why Fudayl ibn Iyad, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said something very remarkable. Up until the time that humans don't stop blaming each other, they will never change. The change begins when you start to realize and take responsibility. It is only that point in time you will start to work towards that. Otherwise, we will continue to blame it is him or her, them versus us, and the issue will remain unresolved. So therefore, we need to look at who is responsible for that. So from the Islamic point of view, also other traditions, they agree with us in this regard, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created human beings not as the only creation, rather the best of the creation. Although we have many makhluqat and creations around us, but we have been created as the best of the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and jewel of His creation basically. This is why there is according to some narration, Allahu a'lam, but it is said in Arabic, إِنَّ الدُّنْيَا خُلِقَتْ لَكُمْ. All what we have at our disposal has been created for us. And إِنَّ الدُّنْيَا خُلِقَتْ لَكُمْ وَإِنَّكُمْ خُلِقْتُمْ لِلْآخِرَةِ. And one of the poets, he has beautifully summed up this concept. He said, न तू ज़मीन के लिए न आसमां के लिए, जहाँ है तेरे लिए तू नहीं जहाँ के लिए. You are neither for this world nor for the heavens and the skies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this beautiful cosmos around us to serve us so that we could subjugate and surrender ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is at the essence of this. And so we know that Allah has created us as the best of the creations and honored us with stewardship on the face of the earth. We have talked about this many times. Stewardship, which is known according to Quran as Khilafatullahi ala al-ard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created as His stewards on the face of the earth. And Khalifa is the one who works on behalf of somebody. Who works on behalf of someone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored us with this great lofty status, and hence He subjugated everything and anything that you see around us, and gave us the access to benefit from them, to use them. And therefore there are a number of ayat in the Quran that speaks of this concept in the Quran and Islam. For instance, there is an ayat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ سَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Have you not seen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala subjected everything that you see in the universe to you? Subjugated, they surrender. This is why you see, subhanAllah, for example, you see sometimes even the children who are very, very young, but they are, because of their training, they are able to even control the horse, which is very powerful. You will not see other way around. Even sometimes you see tame tiger. They basically they work as per the dictate of a human being. But you will not see things other way around. That is a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has subjugated everything and anything in the universe to human beings. And there are other ayat of the Holy Quran that speak on the same line, along the same notion, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the ayat, وَسَخَّرَ لَكُمُ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ. Allah has even subjugated the celestial bodies. And this is why we see now human being, part of their advancement, they are able to reach out to other celestial bodies in the heavens. For example, in the space, I mean, the moons and the stars and other things. It is because of this possibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed and the power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to human beings. So these ayat, they summarize this concept. Now, it is also important to remember, in one hand we have been given this, mashallah, great position and status. It is also a known reality, according to our tradition, of all creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the universe. Allah alone knows their number exactly, their exact number. But we are humans, besides jinn, as they are addressed as, willful spirits, unseen being. Humans, besides jinn, they are the only one who can rebel and transgress and go against the divine order. There is not any makhluk, any species or any creation of Allah on the face of the earth that can do that, that can dare to do that. They all are in the state of submission, period. They do exactly as they are dictated and told. But it is us who have been given this high status, at the same time the free will and the freedom of choice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, to test us in fact. But so that is something that human oftentimes use, and they have the ability to transgress and go beyond and go against the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when human beings transgress and when they cross the divine set of boundaries, so the sad part is that it's not only us who suffer, even other makhluqat around us and everything around us also suffer the consequence of our ma'asiyat, our disobedience and our transgression. That is a sad part of this. I mean, it is because there is something that we all know. If you commit a sin, then you pay for it. But these innocent makhluqat, because they are subjugated to us, so for example, if the head of the family does something wrong, then the whole family suffers as a result of that. Similar is the case. We have been given that status, so anything and everything that we do wrong, we bear the consequence, but not alone. We are not alone in this regard. Other creations of Allah also share that. And therefore, we have to be extra cautious. We have to be extra careful about the choices that we make in life and the decisions that we make in life. That is very, very important. And I will give you two quick examples. According to our tradition, we can see even the intention of the person can affect things around. Mullah Jalaluddin Rumi rahimahullah ta'ala has mentioned, as a hikayat in his book, that once a king, he was on his way to hunt and he lost his way. And he ended up in an orchard, which was an orchard of pomegranate. So he was alone and thirsty, so entered the orchard. As he entered the orchard, it was very, very beautiful, and very attractive, full of trees and also the fruits. So the one who was taking care of that, so he approached him, and this person did not know that he was a king. Think of the time when people did not have this advanced means of communication to be able to know each other as we easily pass the images and whatnot to the other side of the world. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. So the king approached this person, the gardener, I'm thirsty, could you offer me a juice? So this gardener plucked one pomegranate and squeezed a small one, but subhanAllah, it filled the big jar. As it filled the big jar, so he drank that. As he drank, it was very, very delicious. He had never tasted in his life. So a thought came across his mind. What was the thought? That, this orchard and such type of fruits and garden and trees exist within my kingdom, I don't even know, and there should be a tax over it. There should be a tax over it. That is a thought that came to his mind. It shouldn't be tax-free. as we live in a society full of, we are overburdened with many taxes in many ways. So subhanAllah, then he was not fully satiated, and his subhanAllah instinct required him to try one more drink. So he requested him again, can you give me one more glass? So he plucked another one, and then he squeezed. This time it barely filled quarter of the jar. So he asked this question to the gardener, that why is it that the first time it was full of jar, and this time it's not even barely one quarter? And subhanAllah, the gardener, the person who was looking after, was also a very wise and pious person. And Allah put in his mind, in his heart, this thought to say this. He said, maybe the intention of the king has become corrupt. That's what he said. Maybe the intention of the king has become corrupt. That is a result of this. And then, subhanAllah, he immediately made tawbah, because obviously he knew that it was his intention who affected the tree. So he made tawbah inside his heart, and then he requested for the third time, and this time, subhanAllah, the jar was again full when he squeezed the pomegranate. So he asked the same question again to the gardener. He said, maybe the king repented over his sin. This is just one example. It shows even the facade of niyyah, evil intention, how much can it damage to the world out there. That is very important. This is why إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, there is so much emphasis. This hadith is half of our deen. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala and others, they said, Imam Nawawi especially, that our deen, if you want to divide, then you can divide into two. And this hadith alone, that actions are by intentions, represent half of our deen, because everything is rooted into the intention. And so anyways, the other example that I have mentioned before, during the time of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, there was a serious drought. And as a result of the drought, not only humans and infants suffered, but even animals started to die as a result of drought and lack of water, and lack of also grass and whatnot. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. People came up to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam requesting him to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shower rain. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam took along with him 70,000 Bani Israel. And then they all went into the open space. And this salat is known as Salat al-Istisqa. And they prayed, and Musa alayhi salatu wasalam made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking Allah to shower rain. And this is the incident mentioned in Kitab al-Tawwabin by Imam ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi rahimahullah ta'ala. So when he made dua, Musa alayhi salatu wasalam to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the wahi came to him saying that there is one person in your midst who has been disobeying me for the last 40 years. And he is the reason that I have stopped the rain. He is the reason I have stopped the rain from the entire community. What is important to note, that this is one person versus 70,000 people. One person versus 70,000 people. And what is more surprising to me, even the presence of a Nabi, Musa alayhi salatu wasalam could not dispel the evil of this evil deed of this person. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam is known as Karimullah. That is what we need to think about. So obviously, when he made tawbah, and then as a result of that, the rain, so I will share the remaining narration. So when this wahi came to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he turned to Bani Israel, made this announcement. I have been told that there is one person in our midst who has disobeyed Allah, has been disobeyed for the 40 years, did not make tawbah. And hence, we all are suffering. And Allah commands that he is to leave the gathering. And this person who knew that it was him, there was nobody else. So he looked at himself, and he turned to himself quietly, and he said, "Oh Allah, I disobeyed you for the last 40 years, and you did not humiliate me. And I turn to you today in sincere repentance. Please accept my apology and remove this distressful situation from us." So when he made this dua, obviously nobody moved and left, but then instantly there was a cloud that gathered, and then there was a rain as well, subsequent to that. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, out of surprise, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, nobody left the gathering, then how is this rain? What has caused your rahmah to attract the cloud to shower the rain upon us? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the very person who was the source of deprivation of rain has become the reason for the rain for all of you. One person, when he makes sincere tawbah, can benefit 70,000 people. So these are the examples that I'm showing you to realize the spiritual effect of our deeds and actions that we do. We don't realize, because spirit and soul is something that you can't see. Therefore the effects are also unseen in many ways. But when they reach to a level, then you start to see the horrendous effects on the surface. So these are the two examples. Moving forward, I want to bring to light the description that subhanAllah Quran paints to us, that explains the effects of human corruption, on the face of the earth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Rum, and it is interesting that this ayah happens to be in Surah Al-Rum, and much of the problem that we are facing, West is part of that and has really played a big role in that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون. This ayah is so powerful, it's beyond the human imagination. Allah says, fasad has literally enveloped the earth, and also spread not only the earth, was also on the land, even on the ocean. It has transcended, gone beyond. And as I speak of a few examples, you will see in our time how it has affected. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. And Allah says, it is bima kasabat aydin nas. It is as a result of the human wrong actions. And Allah says, I have brought these conditions upon human beings, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, so that it could serve as a wake-up call for them. So that it could serve as a wake-up call for them to realize what they have done wrong. Otherwise, if they continue to live in that state, they may never think of that. And that's the ayah that is very eye-opening. So in light of this, we understand that the human corruption is the one that corrupts societies, that corrupt the world at large. And societies, they are not regarded as good because of the technology or because of the infrastructure. Of course, this adds up to the development and the success of the society, the rate of the success. However, the good societies are because of the good people that reside in it. And societies that are regarded evil not because of the geographic location, rather the people that are evil that live in that society. And the next question that is also important here, before we get to the next point, is what is inhuman that if that corrupts, the effect transpires, goes beyond affecting everything around us? Is it our brain? It is our heart? What is it? So according to our tradition, subhanAllah, we know for a fact, according to the hadith of Rasulullah also, one of the historians said, when a fish, somebody who has more knowledge about this may know this, but he said, if the fish starts to get rotten, it starts from the mouth. Whereas the human being is concerned, the human corruption begins from heart. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam obviously stated that in the very famous hadith that we all know, أَلَا إِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةً إِذَا صَلُحَتْ صَلُحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. Know that there is a piece of flesh in your body. If that stays sound, everything will stay sound. If that is corrupted, the whole body will be corrupted. And so this refers to أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبِ. Prophet ﷺ repeated this 3 times, saying, know that this is hard, this is hard. And that's what Prophet ﷺ said. So the condition of the world as one of the historians said, the condition of the world that you see out there is merely the reflection and manifestation of your inner state. The world is like a mirror. What you have inside yourself, this is what is going to project out there. So therefore, it is the spiritual well-being of the person. And therefore, all of us, including myself, without an exception, some of us may be physically very sound and healthy. But I can say without a doubt, all of us are spiritually sick. But to compound the crisis, we yet have to realize that we are spiritually sick. That is the worst part of it. Because if you know that you are sick, you can be treated because you know you are sick. But when you think that you are sound, you are healthy, nobody can treat you. So in terms of the spirituality and morality, it is something that many people are in this heedless state thinking that I'm absolutely fine. And this is why they get up to their toes when somebody tries to tell them what is right to do. Why? Because they think that nobody can correct them, they are right. That attitude is the attitude of shaitan. In the Quran, we know when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he was told to do something and he did otherwise, and when he was reprimanded, what did he say? Instead of having the attitude of surrender and recognition of wrong, as Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu wasalam did, he went other way around. He started to justify the wrong. Rationally and logically saying, what I did is right because of these reasons. So we are the children of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. But I dare you to decide whether you are children of Adam or children of shaitan. Because if we are the children of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, then our attitude should be submission when we are told what is right, not rebellions, rejection, transgression. That is the attitude of shaitan that the Quran speaks about. Now some of the contemporary challenges, as I said, human societies and the world at large that face, I have picked up in fact, 5 out of many, because of their relevance and the effect that they have on our world. And I want to just go over briefly so that we understand how it has affected and how it does. In the meantime, what I also want to share with you, these issues and their spiritual correlation, moral correlation between that issue, and because there are scientific explanations to this, we don't deny that. However, we as Muslims, as believers, believe there is more to these issues. And that is what our job is as believers, as Muslims, to work at this level and fix our issues in this regard. And so the first one, as we all know, that the climate change that is generally a major issue these days now, World Economic Forum, which is a very well-reputable, respected forum that does every year a survey. And 3 years in a row, they have regarded this issue as to be the topmost, issue of concern. And global warming that we know as it is, according to this report, it says that almost 50% of the nature, 50% nature of the world has been destroyed as a result of global warming and climate change. 50%. You can imagine. And this has happened, if you trace the history of our universe, our globe, there is no real record for this. But this happened in the last 200 years. Versus countless years that have passed by. That is the effect of global warming on the nature. And this issue has really endangered the very planet Earth that you and I live on, the existence of it, and has threatened countless species of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are approximately 25 seriously endangered species, that have been affected as a result of this. And also other reasons that have been contributed to that. For example, lions and tigers and eagles. SubhanAllah, this is very sad for us to realize, and some of you may know this, sitting here, but I want to say and mention this from an Islamic perspective, we need to be always thinking, what does Islam say on matters that we do not without caring for that. You know, there are people who go out hunting animals, they know for sure that that animal is not halal for them. They can't consume. So they call it, trophy hunting. Trophy hunting is something that is very popular. People pay thousands of dollars traveling to different parts of the world, and Rasulullah ﷺ said, because when you take a life, it's not a joke. Life is precious. Period. Everything and anything out there in the universe exists for a reason that you don't know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not create things for vain. And so when people don't realize this, therefore people, they go out, for example, to Africa, and they hunt, they pay, and they take pictures, bringing back home, thinking they have done a great job. But they should know that that is against the Islamic teaching. Rasulullah ﷺ said, nobody should do the target shooting to any animal out of fun and pleasure. That is the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ. We are only allowed to kill animal when there is a need for it to consume the meat. So these are also additional, and this is a deep-rooted spiritual disease, name and fame, as we know that. People want to show off, and those things, as a result of that, people spend money and travel and do all of these things to bring about their dreams, which are absolutely un-Islamic. Another issue that we have in this regard is acidification of ocean. As I mentioned, Quran speaks of, fasad has even been spread over in ocean. Acidification of ocean is very serious, as there are marine biologists who have stated approximately 80, as a result of this, approximately 80 to 90% of fish in the ocean has already been lost. Can you imagine 80 to 90%? Not 10, 20, 30, 40, 80 to 90% of fish. And as Sheikh Hamza has mentioned, that one of the fish that is only thriving right now in the ocean is the jellyfish. That is the only fish that is thriving out in the ocean. All the other one after the other. What is the reason for this? Because the acidification is affecting and damaging the marine ecosystem. That is the source of life to many of these species in the ocean that they rely on. And that is a great loss. And another reason for this, because overfishing. Now we have a huge problem now with respect to salmon. Right? This year was very low. Allah knows best what will be the next year. All of these makhluqat, Allah alone knows the purpose of their existence on the face of the earth. So overfishing is another big reason that is bringing all of these miserable conditions on human societies. The major cause to this climate change, as we know, the Industrial Revolution, which took place in 18th century, and of course the car emission and oil, basically oil industry. The oil industry in itself is a blessing because it is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in the universe, in the earth. But what is important for us to realize, when West freed itself from the religious bonding, because unfortunately, as Sheikh Abu Hassan Ali rahimahullah ta'ala said, because when West wanted to move forward, it was the religion that was holding them back. And Christianity basically, because we know number of scientists, they were persecuted to death. For example, Galileo, who was persecuted to death. Why? Because of his invention, because of his theories that he believed in. For example, what he believed in was that that the earth revolves around the solar system. That was his belief. So, but the church rejected that. And not only rejected, but also sentenced him to death. And there are other Bruno and some other Copernicus, and these are the scientists who faced massive backlash. And there was a dictatorship of churches back then in Europe. So they rebelled. As they rebelled, they went to the other extreme direction, completely liberating themselves from anything that has to do with their religion. And so Industrial Revolution in one sense is good because much of the advancement we see, whether it is in the name of car, automation and whatnot, it is as a result of that. However, it should have the religious supervision. And unfortunately, West did not try any of the religious alternative to be able to have it. Had they tried Islam, Islam has come perfect synthesis with that. Islam does not reject all of these things. Islam allows, but within the limits. Therefore, all of these issues that we see is because they did not have a proper guidelines how to use and utilize all of these resources. And as a result of that, we saw that they went to extreme, and that extreme brought these extreme conditions. So we, as a Muslim, believe in, the Quran says, for instance, all what you see, different organisms out there in the world, they have real life. We believe that they have real life. And therefore, there are two ayah that are very, very powerful in this regard for us to think and remember. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, reminding us of the importance of everything that exists on the face of the earth. Allah says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما من دابة في الأرض ولا طائر يطير بجناحيه إلا أمم. Allah says, all of these different birds and different animals that you see out there in the world, Allah says they are communities like you. In other words, do not belittle their existence. Do not belittle their existence. This is why one of the scholars said, when we try to bring harm to any species that is out there, then we are silencing a community of worshippers. We are silencing a community of worshippers. Why? Because Quran said, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. There is nothing out there except it engages in the tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this teaches us to respect the universe, respect the different organisms that are out there. And when we use them within the limits and without going to excess. So careless and excessive indulgence in these types of things that has brought this misery on human condition and human society. The next issue with respect to this is, other than climate change, is consumerism and materialism. This is another big problem of our modern societies. What is consumerism? According to one of the reports that has been published in recent time, it says that consumerism is the idea that increasing consumption of goods purchased in the market is always a desirable goal for human beings, and a person's happiness and well-being depends on the merchandise they buy. That is the definition of consumerism. And Western society, as we know, in our time is known and regarded as the consumer society, a word that was often frowned upon in the past as a disease in the past. Today our society is known as the consumer society, which has a negative connotation to it. And materialism, in a nutshell, it means as somebody said, matter matters the most. This is materialism. Matter matters the most. As they say, money matters the most. So matter matters the most, which means, and this whole phenomena is based on what? Based on the rejection of the importance of soul and spirituality. Because as I said earlier, when West completely freed itself, liberated from the religious ethos and values, they went to this extreme that they said matter is everything for them. So therefore, all of these things, capitalism, materialism, consumerism, they are intertwined and connected. All of them. If you read about that, you would understand and know the connection between the two. And therefore, they say that the consumerism it refers to excessive materialism in a capitalist economy that revolves around reflexive, wasteful overconsumption. Therefore, consumerism, in a brief words, it is based upon materialism, and materialism is the backbone of capitalism. Because in order for you to continuously profit out of your enterprise, you need to continuously bring the product out there, material product, and somehow attract people towards it to be able to buy and find happiness in buying those things. That is the correlation and connection between all of these things. So material society is the one who has rejected the importance of soul and spirituality completely. This is why we see there is a huge vacuum in the West with respect to this. And what it promotes, materialism I mean, what it promotes, similar is with respect to consumerism, what it promotes is the mindset that the value of human being does not rest upon their morality or even the education. Rather, the amount of possessions and belongings that they have. For example, the more cars, expensive clothing, and big mansions and whatnot, the more you have all of these things, the more you will be valued and honored and respected. Not because of your moral values, not because of your education, not because of your ethos that you have. So this is the mindset it promotes. Therefore you see, and subhanAllah, Rasulullah said in one of the narrations, that there are people that you see out there, in their appearance, they are very, very simple. Their dress code is not up to the standard of the society. Even their hair is scattered. But Prophet ﷺ said, they enjoy such a close relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if they swear in the name of Allah, Allah will not disappoint them. Allah will fulfill their wish and their request. That is the status that they have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in our religion, as we know, taqwa matters the most. Not matter matters the most. And taqwa resides in our hearts. So it is this that increases our value. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. So in order to get to this level of recognition, you need to have a religious background, spiritual background. Otherwise you will never be able to do that. So this is why Islam is the one that has looked at the root problem of all of these things. And therefore, the type of consumerism that is out there, Prophet ﷺ said, towards the end of time, there will be people who would consume things like locusts. There is a hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ. And that will be very, very widespread. This issue of consumerism and materialism has many other problems that it bring along with it. And that is, for example, the massive, huge garbage production that we have. This is also linked to that. And the damage that it is bringing and to our world is unprecedented. We know the landfills. We barely think about this. It is easy for us to use these, with due respect to everybody, but like I said, we have to be responsible for our wrong. We want to find an easy way out, not having to, for example, wash the dishes. When you serve, for example, public event, that is in some way justifiable, but when you are at home, there is no justification whatsoever for you to use public, paper cups and plates and all those types of disposable items. Because they all, have you ever thought, when you throw the garbage out there, where does it go? Does it vanish? Is there something like that? No. Where does it go? There are landfills there is no more land to accommodate all of those garbage. And now, because of materialism and consumerism, there is additional extra packaging to the items to make it look attractive, to attract the customers and consumers. So there are always layers of packaging with the merchandise. There is no need for it. And so this is another problem that we have. And as a result of consumerism, the issue with that is also wastage. Wastage, and we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran, إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ. إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ. Allah says, those who are extravagant, wasteful, they are the brethren of shaitan. They are the brethren of shaitan. I'm guilty of myself. You need to think of yourself. All of us sitting here, this is why they say, you need to buy things that you really need with the money that you really have. We buy things that we don't need with the money we don't have, using credit cards. All of us sitting here are guilty of this, that we have many things that we don't need, and we have bought with money we don't have. That is the tragedy of our time. So we need to fix this issue. There are people out there, subhanAllah, according to the UN report, generally in the West, if you really go to the dumpsters and try to analyze what is out there, on an average, a household wastes about $300 to $400 a month, the good food that could be used otherwise somewhere else. And a morsel of food that you disregard easily would have saved life somewhere in the world, somewhere else. Because there are hundreds of people daily die as a result of malnutrition. Daily die. Our Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the way he lived, we all know that. This is why when a scholar said, astaghfirullah, when we speak about the simplicity of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the hunger of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we speak in a manner that our stomach is full, even we burp. How can we even appreciate that sacrifice that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam made then? So this wastage is a big problem, and plastic bags, our country thankfully is going to ban that. It is a big time causing damage, and the one that suffer the most is, for example, animals. When they are digging out for food, whether it is fish in the ocean or other animals, they are the ones who eat that. As a result of that, they die. So what Islam presents as an idea is that, recycle things as much as you can. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people think there is no example of that in the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in his life you can see a number of examples of recycling things. For example, when I'm guilty of myself for this, all of us in fact perhaps, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he would have whether it's a garment or a rida, a shawl and sheet, when there would be a hole, he would not discard it immediately or throw it away. Rather, he would patch it. This patching of the sheet is a sign, and the same thing with the shoe, is a sign of recycling, that using it to the maximum that you can. Do you think that he did not have the option to get a better one? There were a number of times he was gifted with with most expensive garments, but he never liked to use that. So he wanted to live a simple life, at the same time to promote this notion and this idea of recycling things and conserving the energy. Because this is another problem because of this attitude of wastage. When we are not even in the house, sometimes we see all the lights on. Rasulullah ﷺ said, when you go to sleep, then put off that lantern that is in the house, because there is a possibility that it could set the fire inside the house. But in our time, to conserve the energy, we should turn off the light which is not needed. So this is, and there is a hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ that I want to share. The root of all of this problem is the spiritual, as I said. There is a spiritual issue that is the deep-rooted issue here, which people have failed to recognize. Prophet ﷺ said, this dunya that we live here, it is not the destination. This dunya is not the destination, it is merely a station. Living the dunya like a traveler and a stranger. And we all know what it means really when we travel, how we live and what we carry with us. So this dunya is not the destination, so we have to live accordingly. And Mu'adh radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when Rasulullah was sending him off, that was a very emotional moment in the life of Mu'adh, because Rasulullah said, Ya Mu'adh, لَعَلَّكَ لَا تَرَانِي بَعْدَ عَامِي هَذَا. To him, it literally turned his world upside down. He said, Rasulullah told him, "O Mu'adh," because he was riding on his camel, on his conveyance, and Prophet ﷺ was walking along with him, and he wanted to get down. Rasulullah said, "No, Ijlis, stay." And then Rasulullah gave him a number of instructions because he was sending him off to Yemen. And one of the things Rasulullah told him was this. Prophet said, this is the last time you may see me, you will not see me again. And this is what happened, because when he came back, Prophet had passed away. So he could not control his tears when he heard that, because he knew that that is what really he meant. لَعَلَّكَ لَا تَرَانِي بَعْدَ عَامِي هَذَا. One of the nasihat that Rasulullah gave him was this, يَا مُعَاذ إِيَّاكَ وَالتَّنَعُّمْ فَإِنَّ عِبَادَ اللَّهِ لَيْسُ بِالْمُتَنَعِّمِينَ. O Mu'adh, stay away from luxurious lifestyle. because the true ibadah of Allah, they are simple in their living. When he was being sent off as the responsible representative, and Rasulullah knew that a time will come in his life, he would be living the life of luxury. He wanted to give him the nasihat to strike a balance in that regard. To strike a balance in that regard. إِيَّاكَ وَالتَّنَاعُمْ فَإِنَّ عِبَادَ اللَّهِ لَيْسُوا بِالْمُتَنَعِّمِينَ. Much of this problem is because, as I said, we buy things we don't need, and we go beyond the limits for that. Astaghfirullah al-Azim. So the other issue is that our time is almost, I want to mention two more things and then we will come to the conclusion. There's always lots to talk about with respect to the issue. Another issue that we have in our society is for example, the issue of, not really in our society, rather in the world at large, the issue of war and violence. And this is something, subhanAllah, I want to mention actually one more point here. One of the writers said something which is very great. Again, it goes back to the overconsumption of food. He said something very powerful. He said, we live in a very paradoxical world. We live in a very paradoxical world where some walk miles to get the food and others walk miles to digest the food. We live in a world where people who have to walk miles to get the food. On the other hand, there are people who they can't digest the food, they need to get medicine and they have to walk for long, long distances to be able to digest the food. And that is at the essence of many of the problems, for example, obesity and other issues. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu." Eat and drink, but always in moderation. Don't go in excess. So the issue of war and violence is something is very, very perturbing and disturbing in our time. And there are countries that their military budget is far greater than their budget for the education. And subhanAllah, America and China is one of those countries that have the huge military budget in this regard. And as a result of this, I mean there are issues of violence, nationalism and imperialism, and many wars that have taken place as a result of, they are the war of over oil basically. And oil, as I explained, as I talked about, it is basically the blood of our technological society. And to many people who are warmongers and hungry for power and wealth, for them, this blood matters or is more valuable than the human blood. Therefore, they are willing to kill hundreds and thousands of people as a result of this. So in the conflict, and right now what is happening in India, and similar is the case in Palestine, the persecution, the ongoing persecution, they all relate to this issue of nationalism, Hindu nationalism, and they want to create a Jewish state and whatnot. So generally war is a big problem, and as a result of this, there are unprecedented people have been displaced in the world, more than 65 million people. And according to one report, it was very shocking to me that 28,300 people every day, it said every day they are forced to leave their homelands because of the persecution. 28,000 plus people. Every day, not every year or every month. This is why they say this is unprecedented, this has never been the case in the human history. And look at the destruction it brings to societies and infrastructure, like Syria and other countries are the example of that. Syria and Iraq, they were the archaeological and heritage site in many ways because they preserved one of the most ancient traditions and civilizations. They are completely gone now. Completely gone. What's the crime? Just politicians fighting over things. And people as they suffer, we know, for example, that issue in 2015, I think that Syrian boy who was just 3 years old, when his dead body was found in Turkey, when the family was trying to basically leave Turkey to get to Greece, Just 3 years old boy. What crime did he commit to be able to be drowned in that ocean? This is why one of the scholars said, when massive influx of refugees were coming to Europe and America and North America, there was a rejection and also opposition to that. So this scholar said something which was very remarkable. He said, refugees are not your enemies. Your real enemies are those who made them refugees. They are your real enemies, but they are buddies with those ones, and these innocent individuals who are suffering as a result of that, they have problem with them. So the last issue here that I want to go over is the issue of human trafficking is another major problem in the world at large. And according to one report, that 2.5 million people become victim of human trafficking, and 80% of them are women who are in sexual bondage. 80% of them are women. Many of the prostitutes you see, I happened to one time speak to one of them. She was not from here, because at night and sometimes I stay here longer. So when I was exiting the masjid, so she happened to, and then I had an interesting conversation with her. She said to me, she's not from here. And I was quite surprised to see they live in such a fear that despite living in Canada, they can't reach out to the authorities and law enforcement. She's from Romania. And she said that she was brought here by fake, basically promises. And now she has been used ever since in the sexual bondage here in Canada. And she said, I can't find any space to get out of this because I'm new, I don't know anybody here. And so this reflects the deeper disease and this is something which is very serious. We all need to look at that. SubhanAllah, this is the issue, the problem of lust and desire. Problem of lust and desire, that is the issue. And therefore, many modern societies we see, they have made laws in a way that rather than eradicating these issues and solving, support them and then promote them. That is the problem that we have. And I want to give you 2 examples of that. That one of the issues that we have as a result of this lust problem is the rape in the world, sexual assault. According to the RAND report, it says that in every 73 seconds there is one rape case that takes place in America. In every 73 seconds. Every 73 seconds. Alone in America, let alone the world, all over the world. And subhanAllah, the Western societies, or rather general secular society, West is not alone in this regard, they have criminalized the action of rape, but they have failed to close the avenues that lead to it. That is the worst part. And when you look at Islam, as Islam has prohibited illicit relationship, on the other hand, it closed all of those doors and pathways that lead to it. That is the beauty of Islam. So when you ban something, you have to also close all of those outlets that lead to the problem. So therefore, for example, in Islam, we have this, no free mixing with opposite genders without a reason. Likewise, proper dress code is necessary. And lowering the gaze, another beautiful example in our teachings. Likewise, not being alone with the non-related person in complete privacy. All of these teachings are there to help us control something which is very natural in us, and to teach us and to lead us to piety and purity of thought and mind, purity of heart and mind. That is what missing here as a result. So we see, in one hand, there is a law against this type of crime, but society at large promotes and supports the lewdness, which inevitably is going to promote the lifestyle that we don't want inevitably. And that is the worst part of this. And another issue relating to it is also pornography. I mean, I don't want to speak about this issue in the masjid. This is very disgusting. But as I do counseling, I say to you honestly, it is becoming a serious problem in Muslim community. This is becoming a serious problem in Muslim community. This is becoming a serious problem in Muslim community. You don't want to know what I have to hear at times. So this is another huge problem that, subhanAllah, this industry is, $57 billion industry worldwide. There is no entertainment industry that can come close to it. And we need to worry as parents. As parents, we need to worry about our children, our teenagers, and our future generation, because the type of images, the degrading images of women that they see out there in the street, on the internet, television, and also in their social interaction, how are they going to see and look women in general? That is the scary part here. Because we who have come from a different background, at least we know, alhamdulillah, but the general projection of women in this society is as if just merely a sex object. And we as Muslims are not doing any better job either. With respect to everyone here, we have a problem in our community. Look at how Muslim teenagers dress up, girls here, let alone the other individuals. How they dress up. There's a big problem here that we have to look into and think about. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا, do not go near zina. And that the beauty of this hukum, this injunction, is that Allah has, this is why I say that if we truly apply Islam in this society and Christianity alone, Islam and Christianity, this issue will be resolved. Because Islam has, as I explained to you, has put forward a number of solutions to all of these problems. And second is Christianity. Many of us don't know in the Bible, in Matthew, for example, there is a verse. Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, you have been told that fornication is that when you illicitly engage with the opposite gender. But I tell you that even if you look at a woman with lustful eye, then you have committed fornication. But I tell you, even if you look at a woman with lustful eye, then you have committed a fornication. That is the teaching of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. So how many Christians follow that? So if these two things are to be implemented, many of these problems will automatically get resolved. In conclusion, there is a lot of work to be done anyways, but we Muslims are seen as saviors of humanity. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ. One of the purpose of this ummah is to bring benefit to others. We can only do that when we are competent enough and have those skills and qualities to be able to benefit others. As they say in Arabic, فَاقِدُ الشَّيْء لَا يُعْطِي. Somebody who himself doesn't have something cannot offer to anyone. So we have a great job to do in this regard. And there are three things I want to suggest in the end that we need to begin our journey with. And that is what at the essence of this discussion is. I have to skip many things that I wanted to talk about because of the time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ بِقَوْمٍ مَا بِقَوْمٍ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Jazakallah khair. The ayat says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not change the conditions of people until they change their inner state. So Ibn Arabi rahimahullah ta'ala says, if you want to know the reason of your loss of the ni'mah of Allah, then you need to identify the sins that you have committed. Because if you have lost the ni'mah of Allah, is a result of a sin that you have committed, then you can relate to that. We all complain, oh Allah, I don't have this, I lost this, but we don't want to look at the disease, the problem that has caused this. So the first thing out of three is we need to begin the transformation with tawbah, repentance, turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in sincere repentance. That is at the center of all of this, turning to Allah in repentance for our sinful state. And not only that, for our carelessness and negligence towards others and the creation at large. Because we did not really think what we did affected others and the world. So tawbah is the turning point and the beginning point in this regard. We sincerely need to make tawbah and think about what we have done wrong in this regard. And second thing is ta'aleem, education. It is ilm that has honored us with this lofty status of the stewardship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khilafatullahi ala وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. It is the ilm that Allah gave. And what is interesting here, if you read the tafsir of this ayat, this is not a divine knowledge. It is the knowledge of the universe. So what we need to increase our knowledge in this regard is, of course, the religious knowledge, also the other knowledge, which can help us understand what does it really mean to be the Khalifatullahi ala al-ard. What does it really mean to be the Khalifa of Allah, the steward of Allah on the face of the earth, and then play our role accordingly. And the third thing is tazkiyah. A spiritual purification of our heart and disciplining our soul and self. That is, this is very important, because if we do not purify our heart spiritually from many of these spiritual diseases that are at the root and at the center of all of these problems that I have spoken about, for example, lust, for example, gluttony, for example, pride, for example, vengeance. All of these things, they are at the root of all of these problems. So if we do not purify and cleanse our heart spiritually from this, then we will never be able to fulfill the role of stewardship on the face of the earth. So this is a very, very important point. And the history of Islam is full of the examples when Rasulullah ﷺ did the tazkiyah of Sahaba radiallahu anhu ajma'in, and after Iman and tazkiyah and tarbiyat of Rasulullah ﷺ, when they were brought forward to lead the world, how they changed the world. They changed the world to a degree that they became, as I mentioned before, they became the subject of history. That the history used to revolve around them. Umar radiallahu anhu, his life is full of such examples, and Umar bin Abdul Aziz rahimahullah is another great examples in this regard. I can't give you the examples because of the time. But this can only be possible when we have these three things: tawbah, ta'aleem, and tazkiyah. And how can we do tazkiyah? Of course, it's a science on its own. So you need to associate yourself with the people of ilm and taqwa. But there are good books out there. For example, one of the great books in this regard is Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala's book, Ihya Ulumuddin, the revival of the Islamic sciences. If any one of us could read that, would be really great. It's in 3 volumes. But the other book that I wanted to show you, it's this one. Shaykh Hamza Yusuf, Allah has translated this. It's Madkhalatul Qulub, Purification of the Heart. And it's relatively very concise work, but great work. We need to really read through this carefully, reflecting over what it says and having corollaries with respect to our own issues, and working on those solutions. That is the best way to transform ourselves spiritually. This is why they say if you want to see the change out there in the world, be the change that you want to see in the world. That's the only way out there. And we need to serve the world, not the savage the world. And we need to be the source of delight, not the source of pain and plight for the humanity at large. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this high maqam as a human being. And I end with this beautiful statement. Rasulullah said, there are 2 types of people in the world. There are those, when they die, people really mourn and grieve over them. And there are those who, when they die, people feel happy. Because, we have a saying in Urdu, they say, Margya Mardud Fatiha Madurud. Right? Which means that, when somebody is so evil, when he is dead, the people take sigh of relief. So we need to be in the first category, not in the second one. That is how we're supposed to be. This is why the English proverb says, there are some people who bring happiness wherever they go. There are some people who bring happiness wherever they go, and there are others who bring happiness whenever they go. So we need to pray that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us in that category where we become the source of khair and benefit to the humanity at large. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us the tawfiq to act upon what has been said. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our shortcomings. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help heal the world by healing ourselves. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa akhir da'wan alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد ان لا اله الا انت ونستغفرك ونتوب اليك سبحان ربك رب العزه عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين